switch that over. This is a sheet that we used to use. We kind of have automated everything, but this might be great for some of you to get started with to help you track what I need to do. So we can share this afterwards. It basically says, have I ordered the measurements? Because you can order measurements or measure yourself, but you know that you can't go out and use tax records or any kind of old appraisal. If your seller got an appraisal like last month, you can't use that. Like, you are responsible for your measurements and things yourself. So we have a company, we use Harmon Property Solutions. There's other companies in the area, McNamara, there's several that you can hire to go do your measurements for you for about $85 or so, $75, $85. And that's going to help protect you and give you another level of, someone else, a licensed appraiser with Harmon has gone out and done your measurements. And so if there's ever a discrepancy, you can go back to them because they're kind of the one responsible. But, these are just people we have used in the past for doing staging consults. And so, are you going to need staging? Do you need a painter? Do you need any of those things? Have you pulled the permits? Are you going to order a warranty? So all that information is just there to help you make sure that you're covering your bases. Have I pulled the covenants? Do I have the tax records? All those things, because that's on you all to do. So any questions about that part of the process, getting started? Danielle.
So since I know you guys are a team, so it's different than us, but when your agents go, do they fill this out or you guys fill that out?
We do this. So our agents, we have a form that they fill out, okay, and then we kind of handle all the back end stuff. So they're just giving us the basics of, here's the contact information for the sellers. Here's, what the commissions are, all that stuff. Okay. And then we're doing all the back end pulling, all this information and putting it in our CRM. Scheduling all the things. Yeah.
And what do you guys use to schedule to keep track of all your crazy transactions?
Well, we have, I use a Google Calendar so I can keep track of, I have a checklist, like that checklist I showed you, which is a paper one. Right. We have a version that we use. We call it's Sisu. It's a management for all our back end stuff. It's a paid thing that you'd have to get, but it can track your numbers and everything for your business. But then it also has task management in there. So we have that, but I can share with you the checklist and you can, create your own version. We did it on paper forever, on a paper folder. We had a folder with all the documents in it. We stapled this on the front. Yeah, and we worked on that forever. Then we went paperless maybe a year and a half or so, 2 years ago maybe. And we just basically have this all in a linear checklist. And then on a Google Calendar, we keep track of when are the photos, and we just color code them. All the pictures are in pictures are orange. The measurements are in purple. So we can kind of look and just see what we're doing. Oh, wait, there again. Closed it. Right. So this is for July, right? So all the blacks are all the closings we have coming up. It's grayed out the things that are already passed, but different times that we have the photos, like Ambergate photos, what time they're going. So that way, at a glance, we can see all at once, what process they're in, and then we have our checklist too that we can refer to. Because once you get a lot of listings going, it gets hairy because you're not exactly sure. So we kind of just track through that, and when we're going to go live, when we're going to go coming soon, we have all that in there. So,
I have a question.
Yeah, Trevor.
For when we're talking about marketing stuff with listing clients, are we telling them 1 week lead time for photos and aerial and measurements?
So in a absolutely perfect world, we would love to tell our clients that it's about a 10-day process, right? Sherry did it in 2 days last week. We don't want to do that, but we can. Yes, we can.
We love you.
But in that instance, the agent was so excited. She's like, I want to shout out to Sherry. She did amazing things. She got photos, measurements. We went live in 2 days. That is amazing, and that is awesome, and Sherry did an amazing job. But that agent also did an amazing job because that meant that they had everything signed. They had all the paperwork in the right place. They gave us all the contact information. We don't always have that. Sometimes people are piecemealing it in, and it makes it a lot harder. So the more that you can have straight right up front, the faster you can go, right?
Yeah.
So all it is just getting a photographer and measurements and out there. And the companies we work with are amazing, and they will always try to accommodate us. So creating those business relationships too, where you've got somebody that you can call and say, hate to do this to you, but is there any way we can get photos tomorrow? But as long as you're working with them and having good communication, we can get that done. I would say 10 days is a perfect scenario.
If we tell them 10 days and we deliver sooner,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But just so they know for organization and planning in their heads,
Yeah.
they're thinking kind of 10 days. And then they can come back and say, oh, can it be 7 or whatever?
And
we can
the way,
figure it out.
and the way we do it too is we always pull, if we get a new listing, and even if we don't know for sure, sometimes they don't know when they're ready to go. We do all the back end stuff right up front. Mary, who I was hoping was going to be on, she is our assistant. She pulls all the paperwork. It's in the file, whether we list tomorrow or whether it's 6 months from now and they come back around, it's there and we've got it ready. Same thing with building the partials in the MLS. We build the partials right away. So we're ready as fast as we can on the paperwork side. Now it's just but we need to get cleaning and painting and maybe some work done and whatever.
What we do is,
We still
as
have it
much
done.
on the front as
Yeah.
we can get it, front load all of that stuff, because your sellers might say, oh, things have changed, there's a list in a week.
Yeah.
Or,
And that's invariably what happens.
Yeah.
They go really slow. They're not ready. They don't sign. They're dragging their feet. They're not quite ready for the cleaner. They're not. And then all of a
And the
sudden it's
seller's
like,
market.
we have to sell now. And we just found the dream house in our, in the next county that we want to move to. And so if you front loaded yourself, you're in better shape. If you've been able to knock that stuff out. Any questions from anyone on Zoom? Was there anything in the chat?
Terri, did you talk about the seller info sheet we sent out there to help agents to fill out? That would be something that's not covered specifically.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it's
true.
Very easy,
So-
so that we don't have to ask them about the questions.
How do you get back to that? You shouldn't put two of us up here with the Zoom. Jenna, how do we get back to the seeing our
So
Zoom
we can see if
page?
there's any chat.
All I can see at the moment
If
is.
you expand, do you see in the very top, the green?
Oh, yeah.
Very top? You pull that.
There we go.
You got it. It's only because I've been on the hot seat and struggled through it. It's the best way to learn.
So how do I get?
If you look at chat, it'll pop up all the way. So you see the dots at the top?
Yeah.
I think that the chat.
Yeah, there's 3 things in the chat. So let's see. Oh, that's still what people saying right now. Okay, well, if anybody has any questions,
They want to see you. Is it possible to see the speaker?
well, I'm not screen sharing at the moment.
What is the best way to confirm the bedrooms, permits, etc.? So that link. So
Okay, yeah, I'll send out that link for pulling the septic permit, and that's when you just have to compare. Just make sure that whatever it says on the permit, occasionally, like Johnston County, the permits aren't online, you have to call and they'll send it to you. If you ever have any questions on any county, you'll have to call the permitting and ask them. So that's what you want to make sure matches.
You can go to the auditor site here, correct? And just pull up information. That's a
Well,
good
Lake County has all their permitting and stuff in one spot, and you can get to it through the GIS too.
Okay.
There's a link down at the bottom, I think. What was the other question? The permits and then one other thing.
They want to see you.
Oh, okay. Well,
They continuously just
all
want to
right.
see you.
Can they see me? Hello, I'm still here.
There she is.
So I don't really have anything to show you at the moment on this seller information sheet, but I can share a sample with you afterwards. Will you write that down too? Yeah. We have different ways of doing it. We have a Google form that we created. You can do that free thing with you to do Google forms that you send to the seller, and then it'll populate to an Excel spreadsheet for you. Basically, or you could just do a good old-fashioned paper one, which we'll send you an example of, that you send to the seller asking them for all of their pertinent information. And I like to ask them those questions that you're going to need to know, like, do you have an underground fuel tank? And do you have a termite bond? And what kind of roof do you have? And where's your water heater? And just things that you're going to need to know for your MLS entry. We put it kind of into a nice form for that, whether it's paper, which you send to them and have them fill out, or the best thing is, though, if you are at the listing appointment, that you just go ahead and do it. Like, have a form so that you've got something to guide you, or just use the listing agreement and fill it out as you go, like, and ask them the questions. I know it takes time, but in the long run, it's better, because we just had an incident where one of our agents went to a listing appointment 3 weeks ago. They knew they were getting that appointment before they arrived. This wasn't a competition. They said, hey, we want to list with you. Can you come out? We're ready to go. So they went through the presentation. Sherry went too. Everything was great. I mean, they didn't even have to do the presentation. They just did the whole, like, okay, this is what you want to do. This is what you want to accomplish. This is when we're going to go live, whatever. I'll send you the listing agreement, and I'll write it up when I get home, and I'll send it to you. 3 weeks later, still no signatures. And they still are saying, no, we're going to do it. But it would have been better if they had just got it done right then, right? Because they don't get, you got them right there. You can ask those questions, because then you have to chase them later. Hey, you didn't tell me about the termite bond.
And also in this hot market, without a signature,
Yeah.
the next door neighbor can say,
Yes.
oh, I want to buy your house.
Yes,
You're
exactly.
selling?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or my sister's an agent. She would love to help you. Oh, they were going to do it for 5%. Well, she'll do it for 4.5, or, so
3.8.
3.8, exactly. So I just try to get it right then and there and get those questions answered, because you're going to need all that anyway. So you're just making it easier on yourself. And if you have admin, it makes it easier on your admin if you have a team to be able to do that. and move faster.
Everything's scheduled, then we can do the measurements, and we can do photos and.
Yeah, because
We just
until
need
we
that
get a listing
sign.
agreement, yes, you don't want to start spending money, right? So you want to make sure that you guys are committed to each other before you order measurements and photos and staging and anything else you're going to do like that, because you're just going to end up wasting your money, which you don't want to do that. Any questions about that part? We can talk about the.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
In your listing agreement, do you guys put under additional information, like if they were to back out, you charge a marketing fee or something?
You
like that?
absolutely can put it there. We don't have that in ours. We have, sometimes you might have sellers that are concerned about certain things. You can put that in, for instance, like, hey, either one of us can get out of this contract with 48 hours written notice, as long as we're not under contract or whatever already or something. We've put that in for certain ones, like certain sellers or buyers, if you have a buyer agency, people that are just unsure or antsy, you can put an out clause. Having an out clause for you can be good too, to say, I also can get out of this if I notify you if it's not going well. So that's a place we personally on the call shoot team charge an admin fee. That's a place we put it in, so they know that there's an additional fee there. EXP will require you, if you're going to charge any kind of additional fees, to have it in your listing agreement or your buyer agency. So that's where you put it.
Are we collecting the marketing fee up front with
No.
listing clients? Okay.
It's not up front. It's just part of. It'll just be
At
on the
closing.
CD. Yeah. Any other questions about any of those things? Somebody's looking to be admitted though. Who's there? So once you kind of pull the paperwork and all together, then we are ordering measurements and ordering this staging. Sometimes we, at our team, we have a stager that gives like a consult. We pay for it. It's about $100, $150 depending, to basically be the bad guy with your client. Now, this has morphed according to the market too, because we were doing this on everything, right? You need to get the house painted, you need to get the carpets cleaned, you need to do all those things. We were doing some light staging, like accessory staging, and then the market kind of went crazy and we were doing less of that, less work. They just want to get it on the market and take their chances. We still want to put our best foot forward. We're trying not to do that. We still want you to, if you have a big old stain, let's get the carpet cleaned. It's just going to get you more money, right? But we used to do a lot more of it than we do now. So you kind of have to see how the market is and the price point, right? If it's under 250, it could be anything and it's going to sell practically. But you still want to set that standard high so that you are getting, the most bang for your buck. They're getting the most money. If it looks move-in ready, people are going to pay even more than if they know, oh, I've got to get it painted and all these things. But we still do the consult because we will have the stager, and we'll tell our stager too, like, hey, can you just talk to them about decluttering? Can you just talk to them about, taking down their collection of baseball cards or whatever. And she will. So she'll just try to convince them. Also, it's like a third party expert basically trying to say, hey, you'll do better if you do these things. And it's not just us saying it because they hear us, but sometimes.
And then we get a summary, we get a report that we can either forward to them or.
Yeah.
take
And
some-
again, sellers sometimes will be like, absolutely, I'll do these things. Others will like, I'm not doing anything. One house was turquoise and peach, and somebody told me once it looked like a Care Bear threw up in there because it was all these colors. And we tried to convince them to like, let's neutralize it. They didn't want to, and it sold with like 7 offers. So you know how the market is, right? But they might have even gotten more money if they had done that. So you just have to kind of go with the flow on that with sellers, but we can advise.
And it helps with ranges too, right? I don't know if you've got a listing appointment and there's a range. Really, I want to wait to see what 2 more houses are going to close in 2 weeks. I'm like, this is the range I'm going to list your house at, and like the range of listing agreement. And like, we're going to look at the comps again in 2 weeks when these 2 houses close, especially right now.
Right.
Who knows what it went for, right?
Right.
And so I'll say to them, here's your range. Here's our report. This is what I see is going to get you the highest dollar. Here's the range we're going to list it. Here's the work I want you to do. It's $5,000 of the work. I can't guarantee, but my experience shows you that you're going to get $25,000 more just by doing that. So I love when I go in with the range and then I have Becca's report. And I'm like, you are on the driver's seat,
Right.
but to list it here, you need to do A, B, and C.
Right.
So that's what's really helpful about that report too.
And by looking at the comps, like you said too, seeing like, well, this one has been updated and
Maybe
look,
they
they
should.
got this much,
Yeah.
and this one has not, and they got this much. So you tell me, do you want to not do any work and take this much, or do the extra? So, and we help our clients with all of those things. Like we hold their hands. So we get the painters, we get the cleaners, we do all of those things instead of saying, hey, you need to go do this. Here's the things you should do. Let me know when you get it done. It might never happen or it might take forever. So we kind of keep the oil, keep it greased so we can keep moving. Any questions on like the staging, photography? We always think if you can to do professional photography, it's really not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. Maybe 36 pictures, anywhere from $150 to $200 to have that done. But have you seen out there people that are just snapping with their cell phone versus people that have that photography? It's going to help you a lot, especially when things are selling coming soon. If you have great pictures, then you're going to get a lot better
Response.
Sight unseen. You're going to see that a lot better than if you just threw a couple snapshots up there. Any questions about the photography part?
Okay, Brian Jackson's trying to ask a question.
Okay.
So he's here, so I asked him to call the question here.
I don't know. We can unmute them too. So then we get all that stuff. We put it in the MLS. That part of the process too is just, learning the rules about coming soon and whatever. I know there's so many things. Every day we're learning things because now we're seeing office exclusive and things like that we never really used to do in the older days, like a couple months ago. Yeah. Any questions about, do you understand the office exclusive and coming soon and how those things work? I know, like, as far as listing it, the actual mechanics. Any questions about that?
I have a question about office exclusive. I've never done that. I don't know why. I do that, but can you
Well,
explain that a little bit?
We've done a couple lately. So it depends on the motivation of your client. And in this case, clients that we had went under contract at a house in Pennsylvania, and they were still trying to sell this one here. In Pennsylvania law, they are under contract, they signed, but they basically, if they get another offer on that house, they have 24 hours to buy, to confirm that they're buying it or they lose it. So they wanted to sell super fast because they knew they didn't have, and it was coming up on a weekend, and they're like, I know it's so crazy up there, it's gonna sell out from under us. They wanted to be done, and we weren't ready. Like, they literally had just decided they were gonna sell. We didn't have measurements, we didn't have all that stuff done yet because it was so fast. And so we said, hey, let's just make it office exclusive. So we put it out to Freedom Builders only. You cannot, if you're office exclusive, you cannot market it in any way, public marketing. You can't put it on your Facebook, you can't whatever. But because Freedom Builders is a private group, like a closed only to EXP, our specific EXP, we could put that out there to them. And then we ended up selling it off market. So in this case, on the listing agreement, we marked office exclusive. There's a form you have to get from TMLS. It's in the documents on TMLS. You download that, you fill it out, you send it in to them. You just send it to data integrity at trianglemls.com. And
So it's basically a pocket listing.
yeah, but it's allowed according, on the listing agreement. But you cannot put it out any other way. So it couldn't have been listed. It can't be coming soon. It can't be, anything else. So we've had a couple rare instances of that. In the long run, that's not the best for your client, right? If it just goes on the open market, it's probably going to do better. So it really has to be a specific reason. Like, I need this to sell like today. And I'm willing to understand I might not make as much money because it's more about the timing. So that's when you might use it.
And they're not prepared. They're really
Right,
not market
right.
prepared, but.
But you could do
if
coming
they could get-
soon, right? They could have done coming soon because they weren't market prepared, and that would have worked, but not in this case because timing was of the essence. And for coming soon, you kind of still need everything in the MLS, right? So you're still like scrambling to get
Terry, if you
yourself.
show it in office exclusive, you can, right, but not coming soon.
It won't show it. No, you don't put it in the MLS at all.
Not
No, I
MLS,
mean-
but I'm saying like somebody can come see it. in
Yes, you
office
can show it.
exclusive, but
Yes.
in coming
If
soon,
it's office
nobody can
exclusive,
see it.
only
Which is different
EXP
than coming
agents.
soon.
Yes,
Yeah,
EXP agents can go see it if it's because it's your office,
that
right?
group, that
So,
small group,
yeah.
you opened it up.
Yeah. So they can show it, and that's fine. That's why you have to send the form to TMLS, and then when it closes, you enter it for comp purposes. And they know because they have that form that you sent in when you listed it, basically saying it was only offered as an office exclusive. So there's a little checkbox on that listing agreement for that. The new listing agreement actually breaks it down even more, so you can, whether it's public marketing, whether it's office exclusive or not. But again, in the most cases, you're not going to do that because it's better to go on the open market and everybody get a shot at it to get a higher price. Coming soon again, there's been some questions lately about have you seen this tiered due diligence? Like a staggered due diligence kind of thing? That's now becoming a thing. Where basically like, hey, we're going to make an offer on your house, sight unseen, coming soon, and we're going to give you $1,000 of due diligence, and then you're going to make it active so I can go see it, and then if I still like it, I'm going to give you another $10,000 of due diligence. And an attorney has to draw that up. There's no form for that, so it's an addendum. We're seeing that. It's not, again, it's like morphing every day, and you have to be careful. You really do. We had a drama with an appraisal addendum that didn't go well because of the wording of the appraisal addendum, which was drafted by an attorney but was still unclear. And the attorney basically said, this has not been litigated yet because it's so new. There's no precedent. So who knows what the court will do. Same thing on any of these addendums and things. So, if you can avoid it just to be safe, doing all these different fancy ways of doing things, but sometimes you have to. So, any questions about that?
It's also important to talk agent to agent to find out
Yeah.
true intent.
Right.
Picking
up the phone and just talking to them. Yes. Did Brian get to ask a question?
No.
Which was Brian? Is that it? Brian, wave your hand at us. Okay. Okay. Can you unmute yourself? I must have set unmuting or whatever. I don't think I can. It's not working.
You want to hear you?
Yes. I don't know why it's doing that unless I have my thing. Brian, are you there? Okay,
Hear me?
we can hear you now. What was your question?
Kind of back to my original question. So I live in Oklahoma City, and typically I go in when I'm prior to listing, I go into MLS and I will confirm everything in terms of the the square footage, bedrooms, all of that. So, you know, are you saying, should I call the county, or, I mean, because what if they did permit, and I mean, how do we get our arms all around that information?
Yeah, and I'm not sure, your state may have different rules. I've recently heard that about another state we were talking to, I can't remember who it was, they're allowed to use square footage from the tax records, for instance. Ohio, they're allowed to use those kind of things. So Oklahoma may let you do that. In this state, we absolutely cannot. So just double check your records on that. I mean, your state laws.
The other thing was we can put in the remarks, you know, not held responsible for pretty much any information, but including the measurements. And North Carolina, you can't do that.
Yeah,
either,
North Carolina also does not allow you to just say, you know, buyer's agent to verify measurements or buyer's agent to verify the schools. We see that all the time, but that's not what we're supposed to do as listing agents here. We really are supposed to provide all that information. Now, the onus is still on the buyer's agents and the buyer to do their due diligence and to ask these questions and look up their own information, but we still are responsible to provide accurate information. So I would just double check on that, Brian, to make sure.
How do you typically confirm the permits?
We can go to our permitting department in our county and pull the permits. They're usually there. And if we have questions about them or they're old, we can just call permitting. And our Wake County one here is extremely helpful. They will try to get you the information, but just depends on your county. If those things are online, you can just go in and go look for the permitting department and then look for septic or any kind of addition that might have been added on or anything like that. And our tax bills also, not the actual bill, but we have what do you even call that? Where you have all the data and then you've got the tabs across the top, the real estate search for Wake County. It also has a section for permitting, but that again, it might be different in whatever county you're in, but ours is on the site, so it might be there. Auditor.
So every time you list a house in North Carolina, you have to have it, you have to have the square foot measured?
Yes, every
Before
time.
you list it? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. See, Oklahoma County's not like that at
Yeah.
all. You can use it straight off the county website.
Yeah.
It says it rough stuff.
Most are.
We wish it was like that, but yeah, we either have to measure ourselves personally, or we have to pay someone to measure it. Yeah, every time. So even if it was 3 months ago.
And for newer agents,
Thank you.
I've gotten the habit of looking at the notes, because if you're talking, if you're doing your pre-qual and you're asking them, do you have any updates to your house? Yes, I added a screen porch, or we finished the third floor. I go into the notes to see if there's any permits.
Mhm.
So when I go to listing presentation, we'll talk about, oh yeah, Larry down the street did it because he's a GC fund of mine. So
Yeah.
great, well now we can't count that in our square footage.
And you are responsible. I just saw Brian Pate. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. He teaches a lot of CE classes and all. I follow him on Facebook. He posts interesting information all the time. He posted 2 days ago from the bulletin, the naughty notes at the back of the bulletin about who did bad things. He posted a thing and it was literally about permits and that they were not pulled, they were not verified, the agent didn't do X, Y, and Z. So just if you ask your seller and they're like, no, it was whatever, you still need to verify it. So, any other questions about that part of it? Terri, can you think of anything else about the process? I mean, there's so many moving parts. I mean, you all know when you have a lot of listings, there's a lot of moving parts as to what's happening on the back end, because invariably they want to go live this day, but now they want to go live that day, but now they're going to wait 2 weeks. No, wait a minute. So having a system, whether it's paper or a calendar or, a checklist is good, because we're constantly moving our due dates around. Oh yeah, well, they're going to do this. Oh, they're going to do this. So basically this job is very much being a GC. You're the general contractor for what's happening. And when you've got 10, 20 of them at a time, there's a lot of parts to keep track of.
How do you stay sane when you're keeping track of so many different personalities?
Yes.
It's a serious question, because us agents can't tell our thoughts.
Okay,
we expect
Danielle,
people
you need to
read them.
hire an amazing transaction coordinator, assistant, or listing coordinator. When you get to that point, yes, it's true.
Tells me that.
It's all about leverage, right? So finding that time when it's ready to, when you're ready to flip to the, you reach that point where you're like, I can't breathe anymore or remember anything. I used to sell, and I remember what it felt like, before I started doing this. I decided I liked this side, I like the administration side of it. But you get to that point where you can't remember who the people are and what property that goes with, then it's time to get somebody to help you. And there are people who will do it case by case, like a flat fee per transaction. There are people, like when you're ready to hire an assistant, to do that. But it's important to have that when you get to a certain level, and you'll know the way you feel that you're ready. And I can tell you're ready.
I'm there. I was like trying to get Thomas to see the process.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
also
remember
having a
when
really
your
good
husband had
checklist,
this
so
system.
anyone
Yeah,
Not my
can pick up
assistant.
the folder and
Okay, you're
Yes.
know, oh,
Yeah.
that's been done, that's
Yeah.
been done.
I'm going to share those sample checklists.
Yes,
Your-
please.
I will, Jenna, I'll give it to Jenna. She can put them on Freedom Builders. We'll put them in the files. There's that files tab in Freedom Builders.
In the group.
Yeah.
Slide it in there.
Yeah. But also share those generic ones. If anybody ever wanted to ask a little more in depth, like if you guys are building a team and you want to see more of the back end, just call us and you can come in and sit and look at our stuff with us. We'll show you how we built it out. But for most people, they just need a good checklist, right? Whether it's paper or they build it in Google or just make a spreadsheet.
I have a question.
That's fine. Yes,
What's
Jen.
your biggest pain point if you had to pinpoint one in your process?
Well, for us, for us, it's our agents. Yeah. So I think, if you're building a team or you're going to hire a transaction coordinator, the way that you can help them help you. See, it's symbiotic, right? So you need to both be together on this. Is getting that information and doing it right the first time. Like, I understand you're moving fast. I understand you have other appointments. I understand, that there's a lot going on. But when you hand us a half-assed packet and say, they want to go live in 3 days, you've tied our hands behind our backs. And you're doing that to yourself if you're doing it wrong at the start.
And only I'm allowed to do that.
Yes. Tina, that's carte blanche.
She's not wrong.
That's right. She is the
Only
one
one
and
is
only.
allowed to do that.
That's right. That's right.
But then again, if you turn in a listing agreement that isn't complete, and then you say, the agent comes back and says, well, when are the photos, or when are the measurements, or, well, I've asked you for the complete, signatures or initials, and I still don't have them, so I can't do that next step. So it's just getting this, the starting block needs to be here.
Because we love to just, you drop it on our laps. We have great systems. And we can just we can churn it out and we can move it on and we can get it on and move to the next one. But not if we're chasing sellers and people and signatures and they said they were to sign. Oh, now they're on vacation. So, that's the hardest part. And whether you have an assistant or you're doing it to yourself, it will be just as bad for you if you do it wrong the first time and then it sits there for 3 days and then you pull it out to start working on it and realize that you're missing half the signatures and you didn't remember to take the coming soon form.
Yeah.
That's another one. EXP will kick it back. If you check coming soon on the listing agreement and then you list it and then you don't have that form, you're going to get nuked for that. And the TMLS is going to nuke you for that because you have to have the form. So you're just making it harder on yourself. Try to print your packet, have it all together. If you go to your listing agreement and they say, I don't want to do coming soon, I don't want to entertain sight unseen offers, trash, but at least you had it instead of the other way around where you go without it. Now they want it. Now you're having to go and, remember to follow up afterwards. So any other questions? That was a great question, Jenna. Danielle.
So for when they have HOA stuff, are you guys pulling that stuff and uploading it, or is the agent responsible?
Yeah,
Or do you
we
ask
do
the
it.
homeowner?
We pull it.
pull it.
Mary, one of our assistants, she pulls all the restrictive covenants. We often have that in RVD where the seller will say, no restrictive covenants, no HOA, and then we pull those covenants and there they are, and we have to go back and say, oh, you do have covenants? Oh, I didn't know that. So then we have to get the RVD amended to show that they do, and we attach it and upload it to the MLS. So we are on the back end. We don't take the seller's word for it. We check it. Often we will go in if they don't know or what's happening, we'll go look at some other listings, old MLS sheets for that neighborhood and say, 90% of these say that there's an HOA and nobody knows what it is. And, maybe it's defunct now or whatever, but we still have to verify it. We just had today, the attorney still is going to check with whatever. If there's an HOA on record or a covenant's on record, they're going to want to know and contact somebody to get confirmation that they're not collecting dues anymore or whatever. So that's still on you guys, as listing agent to ask those questions. Yes.
If you're looking to hire a listing coordinator for yourself, what's a good way of checking to see if they're any good at what they do? What is a reference, or is there a certain point that you really want to see in their resume to know that they're a good listing coordinator?
I think if you're gonna have to spend some time talking. I know, when I interviewed with Tina, I moved from out of the area to here, and I started looking because I knew I was moving from being an agent to wanting to do this side of it. And so, just talking to them and knowing what kind of experience do you have with these back end systems? They ask me a lot of questions about what have you done and how many transactions have you done, and just because somebody doesn't have a lot of depth doesn't mean they're not good too. If they have experience as an agent, that is very valuable. Now, just because they're not an agent doesn't mean they're not. So they're not mutually exclusive things, but you want to find out what their knowledge is, what their back end is. They may be coming from another industry, just like you were in property management. You might not have done these same kind of things, but you understood the systems and the logo and the lingo and everything else. And it allows you to transition into that. But I've seen, because I follow some things on Facebook, other groups where they're like, hi, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I want to just start this transaction coordinating business. I think it would be a great idea. What do I need to do? And it's like, well, it's not that simple. You do, yes, it's a great thing to be able to do as a stay-at-home mom and whatever, but it's not like you can just pick up and just do that with no knowledge. So, yes.
Well, and I just think what's super important is having you guys be an extension of me if I'm listing a home, is that they have amazing customer service and they talk to people, right? Because they're an extension of you. So you need to make sure that they're going to match and mirror how you speak to your client, and they're going to do the same thing. Because the hardest thing for agents to do, for me to do, was to not give. I give all control to Terri. I think I'm pretty good here. You do whatever you want to do, but to get my clients to understand that you really want to call Terri. Because she knows what's going on, She knows more. It's just like the process, and they order, or right now Sherry's working on a listing. You can call me, but I'm going to get off the phone and call Sherry. Right. Because you're where what our photos are, and then they CC me on stuff, whatever too. So I think what's uber important, having been in the position working for Tina's clients, you have to be somebody's an extension of who you are. Yeah. I don't think maybe your same personality, but if they're not, then they need to,
If you'll do that, If you'll do that 90% of the time, they will get that and they will come. You'll have the special ones. Tina has certain ones that only want to talk to her. And then she'll call me and go, what am I saying to them? Because she doesn't know, right? Because we're handling it. We have this scheduled. This is what's happening. This is what day it is. And then she calls them and says, this is what we're doing. And, but
Don't give all my secrets out.
I know. But, that is the rare, right? There's just a handful of clients. She shouldn't do that all the time. She does try to send them to us, but there's just the special ones that need to be handheld by the big wig. Yeah.
So do you guys communicate to the sellers when the photos and all that stuff is, not the agent?
Yeah. And we CC both the agent and, we
I see
CC the agent
yeah.
on everything we do. Everything. So they know exactly what's kind of helping in the back end.
And what we'll do too in part of our systems is, so I've done a listing appointment. I talked about kind of what we want to do. So then we have to put something in called CSU, and that's when a transaction, whether buyer's under contract or the listing signed, it goes in all the information that gives them a trigger to start their back end stuff. But then it's a place for notes, and it's called a breakdown. So I'll say to Sherry, our goal is to be active by the 24th.
Okay.
So, and this is what we need to do. I know we're going to get the stager out there. I just need decluttering, whatever else Becca recommends. It does not need it. This is what we're doing. This is basically what I told the sellers.
Yeah, that's really important. This is what I told the sellers.
This is what I told the sellers. And so that kind of helps them. The hardest part, I think, for them is that I forget that I'm not the only agent giving them a listing. agreement at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm asking to get something done in a week, another agent might be doing the same thing. So if I want her to do it in a week, or try to do it in a week, it's just, you have to know, because if I've said it to the seller and then I haven't communicated, they look like a bozo. Now
Right.
we've been pushed back behind, so.
And also there's like really important information that you need to pass on, like these people are getting divorced, or this
The
lady
husband's the
is-
driver, talking
Yes.
to the wife.
Exactly, like you
That's a
need to
big thing
convey
to
that
not-
stuff to any kind of
Anything
assistant.
that's important, yeah.
Mhm.
Or I know the deed has 2 names on it, but her husband died 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, believe me, that has bit us before.
We need to be
Or
sensitive
I
to
Where-
call and nobody ever calls back, but if I text,
Yeah,
bam.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, we have
Like,
little communication,
Yeah.
that's it, to communicate,
Yes.
we do that.
Oh,
and
that's the
stuff.
other thing with the emails that we CC, so all of us can see what's happening. Same thing with texting. Because
You put it in
it'll be
text.
like Mackenzie, her seller, and then me, so
Yeah.
that we can all see.
So you know what's happening.
So it's easy to teach a system, but it's not easy to teach communication skills and soft skills, right?
That's
Well,
right.
that's why I brought, I think it's a little bit, I feel like you can kind of, you know what I mean, if I can come in and not know what the hell I'm doing, I can figure it out, but you have to have somebody who knows how to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
This is a customer service business, that's why I think that's so not everybody can do what they do, for sure, but I don't know.
But even for yourself, if you don't have a team, on that, you know, if I share that checklist with you, you're gonna forget too. If you've got 10 or 12 listings all of a sudden, you're gonna forget. So just right on the top there, you know, oh, this is the one that's, you know, they're getting a divorce. So you don't get confused yourself. You might think you're not going to, but you will. Poor Mackenzie, every time I'm like, this is the one with Larry, right? She goes, no, this is the one with whatever, because I've got two older couples, they're both moving into Glen Air, they're selling their house. I keep getting them confused, right? So
Do you do like a contact form where you list all those notes about people? Like even at the end, you could have a section where they respond.
That's in our CC.
yeah,
Okay.
there's a
There you
spot for that. But if you, like I said, if you make those notes to yourself, it'll just help you, even if you're a solo agent with no TC yet.
Do you wanna talk about like, you know, I know before, and I'm not sure if we still do it, like the disc profile, like if
Yeah.
you put, yeah, you said
Yeah,
that.
and
Okay.
that's
Like
one
the
thing,
big
if
D.
you can tell, like if you
That's
all
what
are familiar,
D.
if you're,
Driver,
if
not-
you're, yes, if you are familiar with the disc, if you will tell us, you know, their disc, like these people are super analytical, which means give them every amount of information that you possibly can in detail, bullet pointed, whatever, because that's how they're gonna want it. This guy is a D, and all he wants to know is what's the next thing. That's all I wanna know. That will help us, because then we're not communicating the way we like to, and then they're all frustrated, like, I don't get any information from you. Or if I get one more email from your TC, I'm gonna blow my brains out, because they don't wanna see all that, right? So it's helpful to know. Or, you know, if they're an I and they wanna get on chit chat and be your best friend, then, you know, it helps to know that, because then instead of us just like, bam, we're doing more hand holding and whatever. Yeah. Danielle?
In the Danielle class. So when you're doing these emails and your whatever next steps, and they are super analytical and want to know every little step, do you do like an extra, like, do you ever give them like a form of like, this is what to expect type of thing?
We haven't
Does
done
make
that.
sense?
We probably should, but I just more kind of know, and then I add more
I mean,
stuff.
kind of in our intro email.
Yeah,
Like,
it
lets
breaks
them
it down.
know this is what's gonna happen soon. You know,
Yeah.
someone's gonna get in touch with you about measurements and photos, and then when I schedule the photos, I send the thing out. This is, you know, kind of go through your house with these photo requirements and see what you think. Like that, but probably not as.
What about like, so yes, you send that, but then of course they're moving, so they forget all that stuff.
Yeah, you're just
So
gonna
I'm-
have to
I'm
keep
assuming then you do
reminding them.
another reminder
Oh,
email.
yeah. And that's where I like to go, and if I can go on a listing appointment with people, every single one of them, I would prefer that. Because they've met me, they've seen me, it's easier to communicate, I can see kind of how they are. Yeah, they're real chatty, or no, like he didn't pay attention to me at all, I need to, or vice versa, you know, I need to talk to him and not her, she's super busy, she travels a lot, you know, you can pick up all that stuff.
Are you volunteering for that, Sherry?
Yeah.
She has been
I
doing
have
it.
been doing it. I love that.
So,
I was
I
gonna
really,
say,
you know, unless it's in like, you know, Charlotte, I
Right,
guess,
like, I'm gonna go to Zebulon.
Sure.
What a great value add too, like the client seeing that you have like
Yes.
2 people there.
It's harder to say no to 2 people than
Right,
it is to
it
say no to
is.
one.
It's so true.
Like here, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
She's here, she is.
I just want to show you a real quick thing that you may or may not be doing, just to help you streamline this process too, which is doing email templates. How many people know how to do Google email templates? Okay, so this I hit my compose button. This is my little thing popped up. If you go down here to the 3 dots, in the bottom down here, you can go here to templates, and then these are all my emails that are already written, and all I have to do is enter in my addresses and whatever else. So this is my number 1. Send this first to my seller, pre-list intro letter, and so then you would come in here. These are the templates.
Look at you teaching something off the cuff.
I know. And so then here's my email. Hi, my name is Terri. I'm the admin manager. This is what I do. I'm here to help you. I'm
Seller
whatever you
information
whatever.
sheet. That's cool.
Like we have that. Remember I talked about the Google
Yeah.
form to send to sellers. Here's a link to it. They can fill it out. In the days ahead, you'll be receiving some calls from vendors we work with. The first will most likely be our stager. This is what she does. The second is our measurement guy. This is in here. I come up. I change this to, 123 Main Street. Welcome, kind of thing. And so it's already done. I go, hello, Bob and Sue, and then
Oh,
I put
that's
their
the other
address in
thing.
there.
If his name's Robert,
Yeah,
but
make
he
sure you
doesn't go
know.
by that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, hey, Robert. And actually, I go by Robbie. Or,
Yeah, it
it's
just
all
makes you
kind of-
look,
just
if
let
you're
us know that stuff.
communicating,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And so then you're good to go. You're done. You didn't have to sit there reinventing the wheel every time. So
That's what I do.
So this template thing, if you come there, and I have it for everything, but if you come here, you can compose it, and then you come to the bottom, and it says save this draft as a template.
Good email.
And so you just save it in there, and then you're good to go. And every time you hit compose, you have all the emails that you use regularly that you send over and over and over again in there. When, open house feedback, this is what happened. It's already formatted. All I have to do is cut and paste the feedback, stick it in there, send it to my seller, and they know what happened at open house without you having to write the whole email again.
We learned at one of our trainings too, when you write emails to people, that people glaze over big chunky paragraphs. And so if you keep it down to 3 sentences, they like to read with a lot of white space.
Mhm.
So, if you're writing this big long paragraph,
Yeah.
a lot of people will glaze,
I will.
especially if
Oh
you're
my
talking to a driver. I literally read the top of an email and then the bottom. The bottom, they get to the point, the top's like, okay. So I don't have time to read the whole thing in between. That's me, that's my brain. So, but if it were more white space, I might read it all. So if you're gonna ever send me an email, make it
And
very
this,
small.
That's me.
Get to the point.
like some of them, sometimes you have a lot of stuff to convey, right?
Yeah.
So like this closing information right here.
So she doesn't answer my questions in the middle. I just figured.
That's what I just
Yeah.
was.
All right, so like here's an example.
Note to self, just put Phil in the middle.
She'll get 20 emails with one question.
Exactly.
It's the same gobbledygook
But
every day.
I've had people respond like, to me, this drives me kind of crazy, just my personality. But I've had people say, thanks a lot for highlighting that, or thanks a lot, because this is all about, you need to go to closing, you need to make sure you have this is what's gonna happen. But I wrote it, if I just wrote that as all in one big thing.
That already looks
But if you,
overwhelming.
I know it's too much for you.
God.
And some people will, and that's why,
Depends on their personality.
if you know their personality, you're gonna have to do a follow-up call or something. But a lot of people wanna know, like, where do I show up? When do I show up? What do I need to have when I get there? What's,
And we try to call,
Yeah.
if you call and then you send that email
Yeah.
and you just explain it to them and then send the email, then you're gonna cover all bases.
Yeah.
And this covers you.
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
things in writing.
Yeah.
Whether they choose to read that or not,
Right.
from a business and
Right. It's no longer your fault.
Right.
It isn't. So we can follow up with the text, follow up with the phone call, but if this saves you.
Yeah.
And and I'm sorry, you're right, there's a lot of information, you're getting a ton of, what we forget too is you're getting emails from us.
Yeah,
The lender
the
and the attorney.
Yeah.
And as much as I'm communicating, I'm shocked when the seller calls me, they don't know who's doing what. We forget that we're not, that they don't do it every day like we do. So as wrong as obnoxious that is, it saves your butt. When they come back to, well, I didn't know I had my driver's license. oh, that totally sucks, but, you know, it was in,
It's
you know, 17.
And you can even record a little video that you stick, you can save a little video and say, hi, this is Tina, I just wanna let you know, I just sent you an email, and the email's about closing, and this and this and this and this, and just save it in your videos in a generic section. You can send it to every client, send them the email, and then they might just actually listen.
Oh, yeah, or like the day
Smart.
before
The day
closing,
before,
if you
yeah.
just had a little video, like, don't forget your ID, don't forget this, this,
And it
this.
looks so personal, that
Right, yeah,
touch.
and then it's always there for you, that's smart. So,
It's 45, what was the percentage? 40 or 45% of your clients will decide if they're going to use you again based on from contract to close during the transaction process. It's not when you list it or get them under contract. It is that contract to close and whatever's happened in between there. So that's when they're gonna decide if they're gonna refer you to
And-
somebody else
Yeah.
or.
And that's,
pressure, girls, no pressure.
I was gonna say, and that's all like on the TCs, if you
Yeah,
have one.
so that'll give referrals to hire you.
Which in a wrap up would be another good thing for having great partners, because we both know if we get to the last day and everything has been golden, and then something goes wrong, and it might have been the lender's fault, it might have been the attorney's fault, it doesn't matter, it is your fault. You referred those people to me and they messed it up, so having good partners too and having communication with them, making sure, because we also check in with the attorney and the lender through the process. We didn't talk about like a contract to close today, but that will be, a lot of that will be in the new agent training. So if you're new, definitely go to that. Pam's going to be leading about that. And I'll go ahead and set, I have contract to close checklists. I'll just put it all together in there.
Maybe
But
talk about
just-
sending the request for the testimonial before closing, right after due diligence, when they're happy.
Yeah.
They have
That's
money
right.
things blow up.
Yes, that's right.
Because they're going to blow up.
Well, I really appreciate y'all being here, and thanks for like listening to my, a lot of this voice on here a lot. Any last questions?
Can you teach a class on dot loop,
Yeah,
on templates?
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
yes.
Because I need that desperately.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
That will
Yeah.
save you at least
Interactive.
10 or 15. We'll just bring it in, she'll help you template.
Yeah.
Like
We can do that.
seriously, because
Yeah, we can
sometimes
do that.
DigiSign doesn't work, and so I'm paying for dot loop
That's what
monthly,
we
but I
do.
don't
That's what
use
we
it.
do too.
But I'm not using it all the
Oh,
time because I don't have templates, so it's really just a backup.
Yeah, we can
But
do that.
I know dot loop would be easier for all that stuff. I just don't know how to.
Yeah, we
if
can do
that's
that.
important to you, just let me know when's a good time for you and I'll match that.
Yeah, we can do
We'll
it.
make sure she presents on a day that you're available.
I will be.
I will clear my schedule.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, any last questions from me? Okay, awesome. I'll give those checklists and things to Jenna.
Thank you, Terri.
Oh, thank you.
Google thing is like blowing my mind.
I know, right? To save all, it's just doing it, having the focus to do it once.
Well, that's the problem
Without
that I
the
have, that's
focus.
what Tom keeps saying, I'm like, I don't have the focus to sit
But
down.
you can go back to all your other emails.